And finally, some advice for Gemini children. There's a lot to say about Gemini children, but I'm just summarizing here just a little bit, because you got hopefully the idea of what Geminis are from the moment they're born until Nav Esrim. But this is just some advice that I've put together that is very important to keep in mind. If you have a Gemini child, don't confine them. They need to have their freedom. They need to be allowed to explore. They want to learn. They really want to learn. So you can't just confine them to a playpen. A Taurus, you give him a good few toys and a playpen, he'll be there for the whole day. Not a Gemini. He'll crawl out, he'll jump, he'll explore. Allow him to explore, that's what he wants. They need a variety of toys and books. They're more mental. Get them used to speaking the truth. That's very important early on, because what did we say before? If they don't really have good values and they have this talent with their speech, they can misuse it. So always get them used to speaking the truth, because they may have that weakness. They may need help with not becoming distracted in class or interrupting the teacher. They don't always listen to everything that is being said. They always interrupt. They always have something to say. So they have to be helped and taught not to be distracted, but to focus and not to interrupt when somebody's talking to them. They have this urge to talk. Because of that urge to talk, they interrupt others. And they need to work on their lack of patience and persistence. Obviously, if one does not have too much patience or persistence, they won't learn too much of anything. Even though they will become knowledgeable, what did we say before? They will be very superficial in everything they learn. And that's a shame, because they have so much mental abilities. If you can work on their patience and persistence, they will accomplish a lot more in life. What if you have a Gemini boss? There are not too many. There are not too many Gemini bosses, because as I wrote down below, they're usually better in consulting jobs or managing jobs. They're not very much into being leaders or telling others what to do. Now, if you do have a Gemini boss, beware. He may record every second that you're late. After your coffee break, you took too much time, he may actually be recording it. That's the Gemini type of boss. If you notice that particular behavior in some individuals, you may suspect he might have some Gemini in him. Now, what's funny about the Gemini is that the following day, if you're late from lunch 3 hours, he may not even have noticed it, right? Because he's always thinking, distracted, so he may not notice certain things, but if he noticed it, he'll write it down. These are the kind of things that Geminis will pay attention. But don't expect him to be the same every day. He's not a Taurus. He will be different. The next following day, he may have other ideas. They're brilliant, but restless. And they're more suited as consultants or managers. They're impatient with full details. They can't handle too many details. That's why the Gemini boss, if you have one, he will be the best one, the typical one, to delegate all responsibilities to other people who are more capable and more suited for a certain job or for a certain aspect of the job. They can't handle details, so a lot of them delegate. Now, Capricorns usually don't delegate. Taurus, not necessarily. They can handle certain things themselves, and they prefer to do it themselves. They're more secure about doing it themselves. This guy will not necessarily think about what's more secure than what's better. Just delegate it. Give it to somebody else, if it's detailed. They're not impressed with tradition. If you tell them, boss, this is the way we always did it. So what? I want to change it. Remember Taurus? Taurus will not necessarily want to change. Gemini will want to change it. Even though traditionally, this is what we always did, this is what worked, so what? Let's try something else. Why fix it if it's not broken? Remember the saying? Don't fix it if it's not broken? Not for Gemini. They're very friendly, but only from a distance. Deep down, they're very cool. They're not necessarily they don't have a deep connection with anyone because they're cooler. But they will be friendly. On the outside, exterior, they will be friendly. Whereas other signs are much more serious, quiet, reserved. You won't see that in a Gemini. You'll see the smile, you'll see the charm, you will see the friendliness. And finally, you know how to win over a Gemini? You can win him over with a good joke. not with tears. If you cry to him, what did we say before? They're not passionate. They don't have that passion, that emotion. You want to win him over? Crack a good joke. With a good joke, they'll love it. They'll be happy. They'll laugh with you. Because that's what they are. That's what they enjoy. I want to go real quickly through the midot. The midot are a compilation of all the characteristics, or many of the characteristics that are found in Sifrei Musar. Now that we got to know a little bit who this Gemini is, what does he have to work on? Does he have to work on ga'ava, arrogance? Some of them are aloof, but not as aloof as the fire signs. So maybe yes, maybe not necessarily. Anava, humbleness, he may have to. They're not always very humble. They show off, that they're intelligent, they're talkative. Busha, shyness or timidity or bashfulness. They're not necessarily lacking of it. Azut, they're not necessarily aggressive, like the fire signs. Ahava, love, yes, they have to develop a little bit more love, a little bit deeper love, a stronger connection. Sin'ah, they don't usually hate anyone with a passion. Compassion, they need to develop. They're sometimes very abusive. Remember? Abusive. So they have to develop rahamim, compassion. They don't have to work on akhzariyut because they're not cruel. Simcha, they have an abundant amount of simcha and happiness. They're always smiling. Daga, worry, yes, they sometimes worry because they're nervous. Harata, regret, they don't always regret. Sometimes they do. It helps to develop the harata because when a person needs to do teshuvah, he has to be remorseful. And if a person does not admit his mistakes, he's in denial, like we said before, he may have a problem with harata, with this midah. Ka'as, anger, they're not the ones to get angry for too long. Ratzon is to appease them. You can easily appease them. They don't hold a grudge. Kin'ah, they're not really jealous. Remember we said they're not jealous or possessive type. Zrizut, they have an abundance of diligence. They're quick. They don't have a problem with zrizut. Zehirut, they're not so cautious. They need to work on zehirut to be more cautious. Atzlut, they're not lazy. Nedivut, they can be generous, but not as much as some of the other signs. Tzaikanut, they're not necessarily stingy. Zechira, remembering, they're usually okay. They usually remember a lot of things, the good and the bad. Shichecha, forgetfulness, they don't really forget, but they don't have a problem with forgiving, because you need forgetfulness to be able to forgive and forget. So they don't really have that problem either. Shetika, silence, they need to learn to be quiet sometimes. They have to keep their mouth shut. They talk too much sometimes. So they have to work on shetika. Sheker, they also have to work on. Remember, we spoke about Taurus. You will find a lot of things that are totally different. Taurus doesn't have a problem with sheker. He's honest. A Gemini may have a problem with sheker or with emet, being truthful. If he's selling cars and he has to be truthful, you think he's going to have a problem. How is he going to sell the car? Well, if it's a lemon, he shouldn't sell it. But he wants to sell it. So he's going to have a problem with working on midat ha'emet. Hanifut, flattery. They're very much into flattery. Lashon hara is a problem that they have. It's a weakness. Some signs have a big weakness with lashon hara. Gossip, talk. They're talkative. They communicate. That's a problem. Teshuvah, repentance. They usually have no problem like other signs. Why? Because they're versatile. They're flexible. They're adaptable. You mean I need to make my kitchen kosher? What's involved? Changing the sinks? No problem. What's involved? Changing the oven? No problem. No problem. Good. So teshuvah may come easier to them than to other signs. Torah will be difficult because they're not persistent and they're not consistent. Chaselem koach hatmada. They will not sit. As we say in Yiddish, they don't have sitzfleisch. They don't have the patience, so they may have a problem sitting for many hours. Yirat Shamayim, God-fearing, they're a little bit not serious. So they may need to work on the Yirat Shamayim, to be more fearful of God. Savlanut, patience, they need to work on too. Ta'avot, they don't have ta'avot. Usually they don't have passions and desires and food like some of the other signs, they don't care for those things so much. Kavod, they don't pursue kavod as much as the fire signs, but sometimes they like it. Nekama, they don't have the nekama of the Scorpio, for example, to take revenge. Dikaon, depression, very rarely, because they're always happy. And letzanut, yes, letzanut is a problem because they ridicule, they make fun, they can be joking. Remember, they have a sense of humor. What goes along with the sense of humor? To make fun, to joke, to ridicule, to belittle. All of that goes along together with letzanut. So that's something that they need to work on. If you're going to be a leitzan, if you're going to be a clown, then you're not going to accomplish too much either, because a clown means you're not serious. So Geminis may need to work on letzanut and the other midot that I've mentioned. These are just some of the midot, but the important midot, and an idea of what some of the signs need to work on, and what Baruch Hashem they have that they don't need to work on. But as I said in the very beginning, with this I'll end. Rabbis tell us that you can learn something from everyone. Everyone has something good. If you're willing to learn, you will find that everyone is special in some way, that no one is perfect. And if Hashem put you together, especially in the marriage with a certain individual, they're there for a reason. Exert kenegdoas, Bezat Hashem, we will talk about after we finish the Mazalot. One of our next topics will be reincarnation. After that, followed by how do you know who your soulmate is. But even if you're stuck with a soulmate who has certain weaknesses, just remember, you were brought together for a certain reason, and that is to be an Exert kenegdo, to be a help for the other one. You probably have what the other one is lacking. You have what it takes to complement the other. So instead of criticizing, if you're in a relationship or friendship or whatever it is, use it as an opportunity to help the individual and not to look down and to criticize. It's very easy to criticize. It's very easy to look down. It's very easy to belittle or to run away from a problem. The trick is to conquer the problem. And every one of us has certain strengths to deal with certain peoples and with certain problems and certain weaknesses. If you are calm and you're dealing with a nervous person, you may have what it takes to calm them down. So instead of yelling at them and criticizing them, use this as an opportunity to grow together. And a couple that has the will, the desire, the interest, and of course the knowledge to do whatever it takes, Bezat Hashem will have a very successful relationship. So Bezat Hashem, hopefully all of us will succeed in making a better relationship with our friends, with our spouse, and most important of all, a better relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Thank you very much.